Good afternoon, everyone. This is track 3. Hope everyone had a good lunch. So this talk is, so you want to hack? Where to start? Your presenter is an experienced IT professional with extensive knowledge and skills spanning different domains and industry, from IT technician, help desk, systems infrastructure, network architect, and information security. He's also one of the organizers of B-Side Singapore, so welcome to the stage, Amar, Sonik.
Thank you, everyone. Let's get the show started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation titled "So You Want to Hack? Where Do You Start?" Before we dive in, let's take a moment to get acquainted and set the stage for our journey into this fascinating topic. The goal of this presentation is to encourage and motivate newcomers to the field of cybersecurity, and as well help beginners find the starting point and understand that having a strong foundation is essential. Without a solid base, learning about cybersecurity can be tough and challenging, which, in other words, you'll be relegated to the title of script kiddie. Here's an overview of the talk that I'll be going through. A quick intro, then we'll take the first step. It's a picture, and you'll see why it's called the first step. And following that, a route question, then perspective from the AI and humans. And from there, we'll start a journey into networking build and go on from there. We'll get into a few demos, and following that, I'll share my thoughts with a call to action. And we'll have a Q&A from the floor, and if there's anything further, please feel free to reach out to me after this. Okay, sounds good. Let's get the show on the road. So, as you know, my name is Amar Sonik. I currently work as a DevOps engineer for healthcare. I've been in the IT world for more than 23 years, and my humble beginning experiences span, but not limited to, working as a screwdriver man, to help desk, system administrator, network engineer, and adding a little information security under my belt. Beyond the IT realm, I have an interesting background. I hold a degree in classical music. I'm not only a musician, but I also teach a percussion instrument called the tabla. I spend some time in the entertainment industry, playing alongside with DJs and with jazz quartet, yada, yada, yada. So, and I'm also proud to be the organizing team for B-Sides SG, the Singapore chapter, where our community is dedicated to promoting cybersecurity awareness and knowledge sharing. What fuels my enthusiasm is a deep passion for information security. In my spare time, I find immense joy in reading, conducting research, setting up practical labs, diving into the intricacies of security-related topic, and my commitment to sharing the insights and knowledge I gather with others who share the similar interests as well. Before I dive into the presentation, I want to make it clear that the opinions and information that I'll share do not represent the organization that I work for, and also please note that this talk is purely for educational purposes. I'm not responsible for the information that I provide. With that, let's begin. Here's something to ponder on. Before I continue, let me ask the room: how many of you consider yourselves hackers? Raise of hands. Oh, awesome! Real hackers. So, I'd like to show you a brief video. For the more experienced ones, I'm sure you'll find you're familiar with the answers and of who this gentleman is that I'm about to show. If you know, that's great. Give yourself 10 points. For those who are still starting and dipping the toes in, that's cool. If you don't know, don't worry. We're here to learn something new every day. So the question is, how do you bypass a firewall?
How do you bypass a firewall? And that got me thinking. So now here I am. I'm totally new. I'm 12, almost 13. I'm like, how do I bypass a firewall?
So I've noticed in many young individuals who are interested in hacking and security, they often start with, sorry, they start off with a lot of enthusiasm, but quickly run into challenges and frustration. Morale is in the toilet, and it just builds. It's like attempting to climb a flight of staircase without knowing where to place their feet. They might get lucky with a successful hack at first, but then they're stuck, not sure how to move forward. And I want to share a story about a certain someone who had beginner's luck in hacking into a network equipment. They called me to brag about it. But when I asked them basic questions about the network, like its routing protocol, IP schema, login banner, they didn't have the answers. It's essentially important to understand these things because they help you plan your next move. Knowing the reason why I ask those questions, they're very specific. Knowing the routing protocol, for example, allows you to use tools like Loki, Scapy, or Yersinia EtherCap to manipulate the network traffic. And understanding the IP schema helps you to plan and blend in to avoid network detection. These fundamentals are crucial. Just like the person in the staircase, if you notice, his left hand is holding onto the railings. So, which means he needs support to climb, to make that climb. And just like that, beginners in hacking world need support to build their foundational skills. Lack of these foundational skills can be a hurdle. So we'll discuss further. Because many are curious about ChatGPT's opinion, I figured why not ask ChatGPT. And if you notice the highlighter part and where I've stated, is it possible to know about hacking without having good network knowledge? It is possible to become a good hacker without knowing networking, but it will be harder. So let's see what the others are saying. We've got perspective from the AI, so for the moment, let's turn to human perspective. I've gathered some questions from social media, and the responses from many people can be summarized as the following. So basically, do start with the basics. Learn how data flows from physical to data layer, then networking to transport, and finally application layer. And by the way, the terms I've just mentioned are part of the OSI and TCP/IP model. And if you notice, the correlation to every layer of the model and the corresponding attack methods, they are associated with each one of them. Diving deeper, the term exploits. So getting into the cybersecurity world, there will come a time where you will need to read and understand exploits. But let's demystify the term exploits. So exploits are like special codes, secret codes, that trick some people into gaining access into a computer system or software that weren't meant to be. It's a bit like finding a hidden entrance into a secret garden video game. Understanding network is a crucial part of grasping how exploit works, so you see the connection. Imagine computer networks as a web of connection, like spider web. When you understand this web, you can spot weak points or vulnerabilities in connection. Exploits are like special tool. They break into the weak points, like finding secret door in a maze. So learning about networking is essential. And you are essentially learning the map of this digital world, which helps you understand better how exploit navigate and manipulate it. It's like being a detective who knows the street and the alleyways. So with that, I'd like to walk you through some basic building blocks and give you an idea of how to network. All right. So let's start by creating a simple word-based network to introduce you to the basics. Later, we'll transform these words into design. So here's the plan. Let's explore networking. First things first, what do we need? An ISP. Second, we need a modem, router with an IP address, and then a switch to build your system. So the ISP installs the modem, which connects to the router. If you want to expand your network, you might consider adding a switch, although in modern equipment, it often comes pre-built. An ISP engineer comes in, sets up the equipment, and within minutes, you're all set to enjoy the information superhighway. Now that we've gone through that, let's see that in action. So you've got your cloud, which represents the internet. And then you've got your router with an IP address, a switch if you want to extend the network. And you start connecting the systems. Now that you've seen the basic network, how a basic network is connected, let me explore a more real-world scenario. So imagine this as our starting point, and now let's build on it. So you start to get fancy, your home network, you decide to expand it, and then you get into a more upscale enterprise level. And this is what I would call more of an ISP level data center kind of setup. Now that we've seen the bigger picture, we look at a broader view of networks and understood how they connect and are constructed. You might be wondering what's next. Well, it's time to talk about something exciting: network attacks. As we build and set up networks, it's important to understand how they can be vulnerable to attacks. We want to explore how attackers can potentially enter our networks from the outside. But before we dive into the details, let's start with the basic question. What exactly is a network exploit? So a network attack is like when someone tries to sneak into your computer, just like a digital burglar. They want to steal, damage, and mess with your digital stuff. So the question is, how do they break in? They use tricks like sending you a fake email, making a fake website that looks real, and when you click on them, they sneak into your computer system. And the other question you'd be asking, why do network attacks happen? Well, there's a bunch of reasons. Some people do it for fun, not the good kind of fun. Some people want to steal your secrets, and others do it to cause chaos. Types of network attack. There are different types of digital break-ins that happen. Some of the more common ones are like viruses, malware, DOS, brute force attack, SQL injection, phishing attacks. Imagine them as different tools for digital burglars as they get into your computer. Let's take a look at some recent news that have been making the waves in social media. First, there was a SolarWinds attack where attackers used network-based approach to gain access into computer systems, stealing sensitive data. They managed to maintain persistent access to compromised system, causing quite a stir. Then we have what's known as route protocol takeover, specifically involving BGP, which is the fundamental routing protocol of the internet. The incident had nearly affected 9,000 IP addresses and had significant impact on major companies like Google, Amazon, Akamai, Cloudflare, and many others. Next up, we have Smurf attack. This attack involves sending a large number of ping packets to a victim, overwhelming the network with traffic until it says, "I can't handle this anymore." It's similar to attacks like Fraggle and Ping of Death, which involve sending large data packets to disrupt the network. Quick tip. If you're curious about the tool that does this, This is a tool that does this. It's called LOIC, Low Orbit Ion Cannon. And please remember, the use of such tool can be very disruptive. You don't want this in, in your possession. And the use of such tools is solely at your discretion. Again, I'm not responsible for what you do or how you use this. It's only for educational purposes. And moving forward, we have SolarWinds attack, and I'm going to talk more about this. So I'll save you some time and summarize it. Basically, it was an attack on its popular application called the Orion, which gives the organization visibility and ability to control, but not limited to, from system and network infrastructure from a high-level overview. So everyone that had this product was happy with it, and we're happy with its use until it got compromised. So your question would be like, it's such a very well-known product. How did it got compromised? Well, how that happened, again, I'm summarizing. So there's plenty of write-ups to, and I won't bore you with the details. The attack had two-pronged stages where it worked under very specific circumstances. First, its victim had to do was download a tainted app and update it. And that was it. That was all it took. But exactly how the app got tainted, that's another long story. If I go deep into it, it's going to run into another hour. So, but coming back, they had to run the tainted app, and that was it. That was all they had to do. And in doing that, the tainted app was clever enough to disable antivirus, forensics tools, evade detection. And the second part was a callback. Basically, as an unsuspecting software that is now invincible from any detection, it was able to call back to the attacker's machine, otherwise known as C2, command and control. And for their victim their victim had to be connected to the interwebs. And that's how the communication starts, from start to finish. So the reason why I'm sharing this is not to point fingers or label anyone as the bad guys, because to be fair, these companies likely employ the right technologies to secure their networks, infrastructure, and application. However, it highlights just how clever the attackers are in identifying vulnerabilities and weaknesses. What I want to emphasize is, at such a high level of security, most attacks often start at network level. The first part involves DOS attacks, which in simple terms aim to overwhelm your network until it fails and becomes vulnerable. If I execute this strategy effectively, it provides me with unauthorized access to your network. In the second part, we consider using an exploit tool to target specific ports and send it to a Windows sharing server, hoping to receive a callback. I'll delve deeper into this in the later slide. Now, the third part, I entice your network by calling back to me, tricking its users into thinking it's a legitimate app, and when they click and run on it, it'll call back to me. And as you probably noticed by now, most of these attacks require at least one network entry point. So this slide animation describes my earlier slide explanation regarding SolarWinds attack. It's not an exact depiction, but it'll give you some idea of an overview of the attack that took place. And yeah. So you have a private network and you have the public network. Sorry, please ignore my bad design, my sketchy face. And then you have the attacker, and you have the target. Malicious code go across. Attacker is listening. The target has an open port, connects back to the attacker. It's connected, game over. Let's take a step further, and I'll show you how it looks like in a simulated real-life attack. And here's a video to illustrate what I've just shown you in my previous slide to depict that. Let me show you. So I run an evil-grade app that is a tainted app, and I get you to download the upgrade, which in this case, Notepad++, and configure the options, and I'll start the listener on my local machine. And then next step, I'll start the man-in-the-middle EtherCap, and through EtherCap, I set up the DNS poisoning to spoof legitimate traffic back to the attacker's casing point, myself. And then I set up a listener for command and control, and doubling up as a command and control server. And this is how it looks like from the victim's machine. So they notice Notepad++ update, and they're like, okay, let me update the file. And this is the tainted app. The app is being updated. And once the victim initiates the action, that's it, game over. And I have system rights on this local box, and I can pretty much do whatever I want. Notice the part where it says get system. And that's it. I've got root access to the machine. Let's talk about another technique where hackers use to access network via NFS, network file system. And I'll explain this step by step. So I run an IP scan to check for the IP addresses for the machine that I'm targeting. So I found the IP address, and I run an mmap scan. It's a network scanning tool. And I look for open ports. And I find the services where it says 2049. So we use RPC-P to see where the services are running on the remote machine. We can also find out through the services of using TCP or UDP. And now I run the SSH. And if that doesn't work, we don't give up. We mount the guest directory onto our computer, making it easier to access. So we use the SSH keygen. To create a connection and copy our public key to the target machine. So once that's done, we log in with SSH, and voila, we got root access to the machine. So what's the call to action? Many emphasize its importance of mastering the basics of network, and I wholeheartedly agree. However, it's crucial to learn these fundamentals from the expert who truly understand the subjects. Individuals like Marius, David Bombal, Keith Barker, Jeremy Chara, Chris and Ed Chris from Packet Heads and Ed from Practical Networking. They're just not knowledgeable. They're not only knowledgeable, but they have networking ingrained in their DNA. As a musician friend of mine would humorously put it, they are the gold standard in networking. So they live and breathe it, and don't just take my word for it, check them out. So what I'm trying to say essentially is start with a foundational course such as Network Plus or Home Network Basic, and then consider progressing to CCENT, CCNA. And I want to clarify that one does not become a network expert overnight. However, embarking on this learning journey will open up numerous opportunities and equip you with the skills needed to understand, integrate networks better. This knowledge is invaluable, especially when it comes to dissecting and understanding, addressing security breaches. It is essential to recognize that networking isn't a skill that can be acquired in 1 or 2 hours, because I've seen a lot of creators who say, okay, this is how you learn networking, and I see all the videos just comes up to about an hour or an hour 15 minutes. Networking takes a long time, and to fully understand and appreciate it, it's a journey, not a marathon. Additionally, it extends beyond the networking layers, OSI model, and encompasses various concepts. You'll delve into routing protocol, the concept of next hop, function of NAT, network address translation, the role of VLANs, and how public and private addressing works, what is routable, what isn't. You learn the art of subnetting, which involves dividing the IP addresses. Additionally, you want to explore troubleshooting scenarios where if your route fails to reach the internet, you'll start and you'll wonder why, and that's where the true art of learning networking comes into play. And also by using tools like Wireshark to trace your data path through the network pipes, you'll gain deeper insights when something doesn't work. Discovering your passion is incredibly important. As they say in French, raison d'être. You should do something because you feel that your inner fire and enthusiasm driving you forward. It all starts with a question like why? Why this and why that? Once that sparks ignites within you, it becomes unstoppable. I remember a time in computer class when my mentor was asking me what was I up to. I replied, I was compiling a computer virus. And to my surprise, I thought he was going to wrangle my neck, but he didn't. He suggested, wouldn't you like to learn how the code was written? It was a moment of realization for me. And back then, quick question, how many of you lived through the era of 1.44 floppy disk? Hands up. Holy So back then, somebody told me that you could write a code to format the 1.44 floppy disk into a 400 megabyte disk. And yeah, that would work, but the floppy would have warped. So the key message here is to find out what you're truly passionate about and pursue that with all your heart. So you've seen the question that was being asked from the start of the talk. Let me give you the answer. How do you bypass a firewall?
And as I learned later on in life, one of the best techniques of bypassing a firewall is a reverse shell. Why try to infiltrate the system directly? And this is relevant. This is why I'm telling you this little story. Mm-hmm. Why are you going to try to attack a system directly when you have the system call you? You understand? Mm-hmm.
So here's a parting thought. You might be familiar with the saying that goes, if a tree falls in the forest, and if there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? So let me pose a similar question in the context of our topic. If there's no network component and you're sitting in front of a computer miles away from your target, how would a hack occur? So And as I wrap up, I'd like to express my gratitude and special thanks, honorable mention to Len No, Samandeep Singh, Sanoop Thomas, and Jim Howard. These are the people that have inspired me. And with that, I'm happy to answer any question from the floor. If you like, you can reach out to me after this and we can connect. And also, again, if you'd like to reach out, here's my contact details on LinkedIn, email. Feel free to reach out. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and I appreciate your time.